Hello and welcome to part 4 of this walkthrough for Steve Jackson's Sorcery. In our last video we visited Aliana the Witch, went through the village of Dumpus, and went across the bridge guarded by Vancross, and we answered his questions. Nighttime is approaching and the village in front of us is a fairly large one, so let's continue. Select the option Approach the Village. Now as we make our way and jump down from a boulder, you're going to hear a lively chirping sound coming from around you. Select the option Turn Around. You're going to see a small, childlike, very thin, green-skinned creature with transparent wings. It seems friendly enough and it lands on your shoulder. Select the option Talk to it. You say, "Greetings, little creature," and the small creature says, "And hello to you." It explains that its name is Jann. Select the option What are you? Jann is going to explain that it's a Minimite and is pleased to meet you. For those of you that are familiar with sorcery lore, I know that Minimites take away magical power from you, but don't worry, we'll be long gone of Jann before we go to the next part that requires a spell. So Jann reaches out with a tiny hand and shakes your earlobe. Ask Jann, what can you tell me about the village? Jann is going to tell you there's a pretty safe village called Briritanti, and that it's the largest village in the whole of the Shamatanti Hills. Ask Jann, what do you want with me? And Jann is going to explain that the last time they tried to go into the village it wasn't so welcoming, so they're going to use you as muscle. Select the option I can protect you. And Jann is going to squeeze your shoulder gently and slightly burrow into your skin. Select the option Well, let's get going. Continue. And select the flag Enter the town. As you enter the village, you can see there's a festival going on, and Jann is going to say, "See, I told you it was a happy place." Ask Jann what's going on. Jann is going to explain that it's a festival known as Festival of the Young. Ask Jann what's that. Jann is going to explain that it's basically a holiday where once a year children are allowed the freedom of the village and it's a great time for fun and lots of pranks. You're going to see a woman nearby that's going to be spanked by a young boy holding her over her knee. I know there's temptation to go rescue her, but trust me, it's a bad idea. Select the option Leave her. Click Continue. Don't feel too bad about the situation. Remember, this is their traditions, and the boy will probably have his comeuppance the next day anyway. Select the option Enter the tavern. As we enter the tavern, the owner is going to walk up to you and say, "Greetings, stranger. I'm Glandragor. Can I help you in any way?" If you remember in part 1 of this walkthrough, we got an axe from the merchant in Cantapani, where the carving said the same name. So select the option Greetings. Select I have something for you, and select Give him the axe. His eyes are going to light up and he's going to ask us where we got the axe from. Select the option I bought it from a merchant. He's going to tell you that he used to be an adventurer, but unfortunately he lost the axe at one point. Select the option How did you lose it? He's going to tell you that he used to be part of a raiding party where there were 4 members and they went into a cave system. The roof collapsed and unfortunately he was knocked unconscious. His group not only left him behind, but someone actually went and stole the axe. Ask him, did you ever find out who? He'll tell you no, and he'll shake his head sadly, but he did manage to bring his life back together and open up the tavern that you can see here. He's going to ask you how long you're staying for. Say, only for tonight. He's going to give us a piece of advice and say that nearby there is a crystal waterfall, and that whatever you think you should definitely go and visit it. Ask him what's so special about this waterfall. He says to you that he won't tell you, and that way you'll just have to go and find out. You nod, and before you leave, he's going to ask you where you're heading next. Tell him that we're on our way to Kare. He's going to offer us some advice, so select go right ahead. And he's going to tell you about an important man called Vic, and that if you're ever in trouble, just mention that name. Vic is going to be important to us in part 2, and to a minor extent in part 4. Tell him I'll remember it. He says that as you'll be going to Kare, you'll also be heading through the town of Toripani. He tells you that it's a spin village and there's no humans there at all, and the chief will probably try to persuade you to help his daughter, who's been carried off by marauders. Tell him, of course I'll help. He says that he's glad to hear it because the poor girl needs rescuing, because the dark cave is guarded by a deadly manticore. When you're ready, click Continue. Select the flag, visit the waterfall. As we continue along the path, you're going to see a large waterfall with large stalactites hanging down from either side of the water. On the path ahead, there is a ruffian collecting money. Select the option Greet the Ruffian. He's going to tell you that it's 3 gold pieces in order to enter the waterfall, but we have a note from Glandragor. Select the option Show him the note. He recognizes the penmanship, although he probably can't read, and he very kindly hands you a towel. Select Continue, and go to the flag, the waterfall. You take your clothes off and dive into the pool, while Jann flitters through the froth. The cool water is fresh and invigorating, and you feel yourself getting rapidly better. Select the option Wait, this water cures disease. As I'm sure you can remember from our previous video, there was a village we came across where the populace unfortunately had plague. Select the option People should be told about it. You think to yourself that it's late already and that you have a quest ahead of yourself, so it's best to send somebody else to go fetch those villagers and get them healed. Select the option Send someone else. Select Glandragor, the tavern keeper, and select Continue. Go to the flag, return to the tavern. As you return to the tavern, Glandragor is going to ask you if you're here for that beer. Select the option Not exactly. He's going to ask you what's on your mind. Select the option I need you to do something for me. He's going to seem interested but cautious all the same. Select the option It's about the village in the hills. He's going to nod deeply and put down his towel on the bar and ask if it's regarding the waterfall. Select Yes. He's going to ask us if we think it's magic because everybody does. Select It is magic. Glandragor is then going to shake his head and say that it's a nice place, but he believes that's all it is. Select the option I thought it healed me. He shrugs, saying maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. Select the option We have to try. He's going to shake his head and said if the village could heal the plague, don't you think the villagers would have visited it already? The waterfall's not a secret, and there aren't always easy answers. Tell him that you're going to visit the plague village by yourself. As you walk out, Jann is going to say, you're not really going to do this, are you? He hisses in your ear, you're crazy. Select Continue. Go to the flag, walking overnight. After an hour has passed, Jann is going to start hopping madly and ask you where you're going. I thought you were on a mission. Respond with, this is important. Jann is going to reply, sure it is, but so is sleep. But you're going to keep walking nonetheless. Jann will then respond with, "Shh, can you hear that?" Select the option, "Hear what?" Jann is going to tell you that something is behind you. Select the option, "Call out in the dark." After some rustling, a figure is going to emerge, and to your great surprise, it's Glandragor. His expression looks sad and drawn. He's going to explain that he saw you leave his tavern, and even though he thinks you're a young fool, he appreciates that you're going to try and do something. Select the option, "You'll come with me." He's going to shake his head and say he's going to go for you. He knows that you've got work to do, but he is old, and if anyone is going to go to the Plague Village, it should be him. Select the option, "Thank you." He says that he feels ashamed enough already, so don't thank him, and with that he strides past you away into the dark. Jann is then going to begin poking your shoulder. Select the option, "What do you want?" Jann is going to question whether he's trustworthy, and you should select the option, "I trust him." Jann says that he appreciates you're confident, but they're not, and is going to begin flying away and says that he's going to go with him to make sure he does what he said. Select the option, "Thank you, Jann." Jann's going to sigh and say it's the right thing to do. When you're ready, click Continue. With Jann out of the way, we can now safely cast spells once more, and this is a much better ending for Jann compared to what would happen if we met them in the city of Mangpang. Select the flag, "Sleep outside town." Select the option, "Eat something." And we most likely will be attacked once more, this time by a wolfhound. Select the option, "Cast a spell." And select Jig. So that's J-I-G. Select Cast. Once again, you'll get a dream dialog box. Feel free to have a read. And when you're ready, click Continue. Select the flag beyond Briritanti. Select Choose a Path, Continue, and select to go right. This is the end of part 4 of this walkthrough. Join us in part 5.